Hey, what's up there, YouTube friends? Grumpy Gamer Dad here, and this is part five or six. I can't remember because there's so many parts. Part six of my series, Making the Nightmare, bringing the nightmare before Christmas into my front yard for Halloween. This one is going to focus primarily on those creepy little critters, Lock, Shock, and Barrel, the minions of Oogie Boogie. That's right, episode 6, Lock, Shock, and Barrel. I chose toddler size, so I went to the store and I got some toddler sweatpants, a bigger sized long sleeve red shirt, and then for Beryl, he's the little skeleton. I got black sweatpants, leggings. Those will put felt skeleton bones on there, and then also because he's a little heavier, we got a pretty robust size 5T shirt for him. And finally, Beryl, she has black leggings, so we got ourselves some little girl black leggings there. And then she wears a purple dress with the hat, and so we got this long-sleeved shirt, and then we're going to sew it in, and then kind of make a dress out of it, and then maybe use some wire to poof it out. I haven't decided yet. Jack. We're going to use PVC. I'm going to use PVC tees. I'm going to use a bunch of different PVC. I'm going to use my PVC cutters. Of course, the 90-degree angles. I love those. And the T connections. Those are the main things. I'm basically going to build the waist out, cut that down to size, put the clothes over it. So here you see basically the PVC skeleton of Beryl. Okay, so I had this brilliant idea that for Lock, Shock, and Barrel, I was going to make their heads. So you can see here, I traced it out as a half sheet so that I can flip it and trace out the same pattern on the other side and cut it out. I'm using some 1.5-inch styrofoam, craft styrofoam that I picked up at the store. You can pretty much see that the basic shape. What I'll do then, after I've cut this out, is I have some additional foam pieces that I'm going to reinforce on the back of this, so it's a bigger piece. I'll then drill a hole through the bottom of it, so I can create a neck. Alright, so our buddy Beryl, his mask, his head, is going to be this. I'll round off the edges. I've kind of just traced this out on the cellophane that wraps this foam here, but it's just a round, looks like 1/2-inch foam sheet. The eyes are going to make big because paint some ping pong balls maybe and glue them out so they're kind of bulgy. I bought these tools here, some foam carving tools, and I'll be using those plus my Dremel to help me do some of this carving. So that's, I still have to build up her nose and Lock's nose, and I'll have to carve out the features of Beryl. His teeth, I'm going to carve them out, and then also his nose or nostrils, and then I'm going to carve out his eyes. So for Beryl, we have the little bones that will go on his shirt and his pants. We've just got a sheet of regular felt. It's like 35 cents a sheet. Cut it out and make the little bones. So this is Grumpy Gamer Dad did this. Grumpy Gamer Wife. His little spine, ribs, and arm and leg bones. I found that this foam, this craft foam that I've been working with, it's a lot smaller, a lot more dense than the construction foam, because this is craft foam. And when I cut it, the pieces are a lot smaller, and I was tired of tasting styrofoam, which I'm sure is not very good for you. With my morning coffee. So I'm wearing the mask to keep the stuff out of my mouth and not breathe it in, because I'm sure that's not good for you either. Here's Shock. You see the original outline still in red. I carved out her eyes. I created a nose. Look at that. Look at that schnoz. Out of foam. I carved out her mouthpiece because I'm going to paint it in black. And then what I also did was I cut another piece out, you can see here, for the back of her head, shaped that, sanded it out so it's more rounded. It's not going to be perfect. And then I also have a hole here at the bottom. The PVC will fit into there, and then her head will fit onto the PVC body that I built. So with Shock, anyway, the end result would be looking like something like that. Now for Barrel, you can see I've got the mask cut out. I drilled out his nose holes and then just his mouth. The teeth, my wife sketched these out, but his teeth are bigger than this, so I'll have to probably freehand those. I'm probably not going to carve them out. Alright, so here's Locke in his head. You can see I can carve out his nose, and then I carved out the back of his head. I've got a nail because I ran out of toothpicks. So when you look at the face of him, though, you know, his little hair sticks up. So I'll paint the hair in too. You can see that, and then glue it all down, pin it with toothpicks, and then we'll be good to go. Alright, so here's the work in progress Locke with his clothes on over that frame. And look, there's his head. Look at that. Work in progress still. We've added the bones to Barrel's shirt. Put his head on. Shock's, sorry, she's topless, but Shock's pretty much set up with her head too. And then Locke there in the back. He's about 90% done, just needs paint and his little pitchfork. So I learned a critical lesson with Locke, Shock, and Barrel's face. The craft foam that I used is super porous, and because of that, does not paint well. I attempted just to paint Barrel's lollipop here, and it does not go into the pores very well. So if you see here, I've bought this other stuff that fills the holes. Smooth finish putty. It's like $9 for this little thing, but man, it is so worth it. You just kind of glob a couple fingerfuls on there and spread it on. It takes about maybe half hour to fully coat one of these, and then it'll dry within a couple hours and it's paintable, sandable. So once this dries, I should be able to paint this easily. And now for paint, I'm just using acrylic paint. I'm brushing it on. I've had a lot of this acrylic. I've used this stuff for years for all different things. I've used it for Pinewood Derby cars for Boy Scouts. You name it, I've used it. And so I already had a collection of it. Alright, so I think that color came out really good with Mr. Locke here. I used a large 1.5 inch brush for most of the surface area because there's a lot. And then for the details like around the eyes, I used a smaller brush here. I left the eyes, of course, unpainted. I got something special I'm going to do with those, probably with some foam sheet, craft foam. And then I just thought that painting it in there would be a pain in the ass. I still have to work on the mouth. Oh, fun fact, did you know that this is not part of his mask? This is his hair. Sorry, it's an inside joke. Barrel's eyes. We have a couple of ping pong balls here. I didn't realize I hit. And there's the end result. 2 great eyeballs that we can now paint once the paint dries. Alright, so here's Barrel. Near completion. His face has been updated. I did grayish purple around his eyes. I put pupils in the ping pong balls there. His teeth are actually clay that I shaped out. His nose is clay also. And then you see he actually has little hippopotamus type ears. Those are foam. There's the completed face for Locke. His teeth were interesting. There are white and black clay, and then I painted into them onto the white so that it can kind of give more pronunciation to the whites of the teeth. You can see these teeth here kind of a little crooked, but that's, you know, what you get from a life of eating candy and being an evil minion. Shock here, she's blowing in the wind. Not much has changed. Her hat's purple. Her face is done. We used a hoop for her dress. So if we turned a toddler shirt into a dress, how crazy is that? Over here we've got an odd assortment of accoutrement for lock, shock, and barrel. Some shoes, those are just going to slip into the PVC. The PVC is going to be what anchors them to the ground. And hands, feet, a devil tail. So yeah, with Lock's tail, it's foam and it was felt wrapped around it. But now there's a guide wire in the center of it. So I can do pretty much bend it into any shape I want. For the final step in lock, shock, and barrel, I've got these 12-inch pieces of rebar that I've hammered into the ground. The PVC will fit into those. And then their little fake shoes will go over it. Here you can see shock, she's already been anchored down. She's not going anywhere. And there you go. Lock, shock, and barrel. They're going to just hang out in the corner here with my cat, who's decides to get out of the frame as soon as I start filming him. Hi, buddy. So lock, shock, and barrel, in addition to being one of the most scratch-built projects of this whole thing, 100% scratch-built, they also were probably the most expensive one because there's 3 of them. The clothes themselves, so I think the outfits for each outfit was about $10 total, so each is $10. The hands for Lock were from an old Halloween decoration. Shock's hands were from it was from a Christmas white elephant gift exchange, and she had them from last year, so I just cut them down and painted over them. And then Barrel's hands we made out of the foam. The most expensive part of Lock, Shock, and Barrel were their heads. Those were entirely handcrafted out of foam. I used some floral foam, which is a little bit more expensive than the construction foam. And so there was about $40 in foam alone for their heads. And then Lock, his little pitchfork, was about $5 at Spirit because we couldn't find one at the dollar store. So in total, the 3 characters were about $80 easily, almost $90 for Lock, Shock, and Barrel. When you figure there's 3 of them, they come in around $30 each. Well, there you go. What'd you think, huh? Episode 6, Lock, Shock, and Barrel. Those creepy little minions of Oogie Boogie. You know, those were some pretty intense builds. You know, they just were very time consuming. I can't even articulate how big of a build they were because everything was, you know, done from scratch. So I hope you enjoyed it. You can subscribe, follow me on Instagram at Grumpy Gamer Dad. Until next time, this is Grumpy Gamer Dad saying something nightmare, something nightmare. By episode 9, I'll get it. I'll have a catchphrase, a closing statement, but until next time, I won't.